What actually holds people back? What prevents them from moving forward and achieving more of what they want to achieve, or getting more of what they want to get? And it ultimately comes down to, if I was going to give you one single principle, and I wrote a poem for it. So it's, if you walk with bears, you'll begin to growl. You walk with wolves, you'll begin to howl. You walk with lions, you'll begin to roar. You walk with eagles, you'll begin to soar. And ultimately, it comes down to the people you put yourself around. And you know what's fascinating about moving forward? I've seen this happen in my own circle, in my own world, where my own character can begin to change, and even my own reputation for my character begins to change. And when I say that is growing up, my default setting was, I think, more greedy, more self-serving, more looking out for me and nobody else. But God has put so many people in my life that were giving, so many people in my life that were serving. I've told the story about my brother over and over again, that before he even wore a pair of shoes, he would offer them to me to give me the opportunity to wear them first. And that was just his heart. And God's put so many people in my life, to see something in their character. So when it comes to people that I'm walking with, if I'm walking with Christians, and if they're looking to grow in their evangelism or their ability to help somebody to come to know Jesus, then one of the most basic things it makes sense to do is to walk with people who actually are reaching out to their neighbors, who are actually making friends with people who don't go to the same church with them, who are actually meeting with people who don't have that same faith. If that's the ambition, if evangelism is the ambition, then it does make sense to walk with people who have that gift of initiation, or who have the ability to bring people to a decision. I remember when even on college and on the college campus, and walking, and not really having, maybe that wasn't a great strength. And I remember seeing one of my mentors back then, Jeff. I mean, it seemed like he was able to just initiate the opportunity for people to just step into, whether inviting them to church, or inviting them to Bible study, or inviting them to have lunch or to grab coffee. But I remember seeing him do that, and the inspiration of what's for me, because sometimes you need the information, sometimes you just need the inspiration. And watching him do that, live out that passion of his to give people an opportunity to dig into the scriptures, it was something that was so powerful for me to see somebody doing that over and over again. I remember, like, there was one of the nights we were doing what we called, Jericho prayer walks around campus, and we would meet up, I don't know, 8:30 in the evening, or 9 p.m. 9 p.m. and we'd walk around the campus. We'd pray, but when Jeff was there, if there was somebody who wasn't with our group, even though we were there as a group to pray and to walk and to pray and to pray over the campus, if he saw somebody who wasn't with our group, he would break away from the prayer group and go have a conversation with them. He didn't get caught up in, okay, well, we're technically there for the prayer, but he made an intentional effort to meet and connect with somebody who was not with us, just to give them an opportunity to come out, to come around, to extend an invitation. So what I saw in him early on was if you were around him, if somebody was around him, then you would either be invited or you would witness him inviting to somebody else. You would see that over and over again. And even something it's fascinating as I even look in the mirror and I see different, a quality of somebody who actually wants to serve. I see that in myself, but I didn't have that growing up. But part of that, I think that's walking with the lions, learning the roar, which is walking with so many people in my church were willing servants, showing up to serve at church or showing up to somebody's house. If they're the ones that take out the trash, or they're the ones that stay late at a wedding to help, break down and put stuff away. But being a part of a community of people who show up to serve over and over again, when I look back on 19 years, I see that's rubbed off on me. I can't. It's the idea of not having that in my world of like, who am I serving this day, or who am I serving this week? So it carries over to what this season has been over the last year and a half of our coming on a year, I should say, of coaching in the T-ball world, to get immersed in the community there. Showing up for one or two practices a week, showing up for one or two games a week, but it just makes sense that I'm doing something to serve on an ongoing basis. I'm going to show up somewhere somehow to serve, and in that context, it's serving. Yeah, there's teaching involved, there's accountability involved, there's leadership involved, but using that gift to serve there. But I say all of that because that wasn't the way I was wired from the get-go. That's something to learn. There's an expression that some principles are caught and some principles are taught. Some principles are taught. It's simply the information you need to read about it. You need to hear about it. But the other principles are caught. That's the more of the inspiration as opposed to the information, where you see somebody doing that and they inspire you to want to do that too, to be like them, to have those characters. So if it came to, if I was spending a little bit of time with you and you were looking to level up or elevate your world and your life, and you pinpointed the area of your life that you wanted to elevate in, to improve, let's say if it was finances, then I would simply ask you, back to the poem: walk with bears, learn to growl. Walk with wolves, learn to howl. Walk with eagles, learn to soar. Walk with lions, learn to roar. I would ask, okay, so who are you walking with? Let's say if it was finances, who are you walking with who has better finances than you? And walking with doesn't even have to be in person, or even you know them, or even that you ever even met them. The idea is you're exposing yourself to their teaching or their information. That could be in books, podcasts, YouTube videos. It could be any of those avenues. But it's who are you walking with, so that you can implement those things into your, and don't get it twisted. There are people who will read a whole bunch of books, who will watch a whole bunch of videos, who will listen to a whole bunch of podcasts, but don't execute the implementation. And it's all about, once you get the information, or even once you get the inspiration, it's about the application, the implementation after that. Because you could have all the information, but if you never get to implementation, doesn't matter. So if you were somebody who was trying to work on, their romantic life, then a question I would ask them, if I was helping them to grow, to improve, or to elevate their life, I would ask, okay, so which romance podcast are you listening to? Or which romantic tips from the videos are you getting? Or which romance books are you getting? Or I would ask them about what they're exposing themselves to. So what actually holds people back? They're exposed to a bunch of information, whether it's online or people in person, but the information isn't leading them to the implementation of principles that actually make a difference. So that's where if there's a gap in information, then you start there with walking with people who are living it, who have the success you want to have, or have the maturity that you want to have, or have the character that you want to have. And once you get that down, then it's about moving from okay, you understand what to do, then it's about the implementation and then creating your systems to give you the best opportunity to implement that going forward. So that's where you can leverage some of the principles that people use in coaching. It's you figure out, you figure out that because you want to improve, because you want to get better, because you want to lift your life from where you are to where you want to be. It's creating systems that incentivize you to move forward. Example, let's say there's people in your profession that you care about their opinion of you. Then, and again, if you're somebody who doesn't care about anybody's opinion, then it's going to be really difficult for you to create a system using that social incentives to move you forward. Social incentives we are wired to want to look good as opposed to look bad. So if you know you're wired to want to look good in front of people, then you can go to those people and tell them about your goals or your ambitions or your intentions with moving forward, and exposing them to that information. If you care about their opinion, it can give you that much more incentive to be able to move forward. So what happens, let's say if we were in a group coaching space, if you're in a group, let's say there's 10 people, everybody's paid whatever, $5,000 to be in the group, right? So everybody's paid money in this context to be a part of the group. So everybody's extra serious, extra invested, extra involved. They're all in there. Now, they're all in there with other high-powered professionals who believe in making their own investments. And so when each person gets to share what they're going to do the next week or the next 2 weeks for their own personal growth, for their own personal improvement, what you can count on is they all care. They cared enough to be in a setting like that. They cared enough to share it in front of their peers, and they're going to care enough to come back, whether it's a week or 2 weeks later, to not want to look bad in front of their peers. In other words, you kind of leverage your ego, the ego that cares about how you look in front of other people, and you use that to your advantage as opposed to your disadvantage. So again, and you don't have to be in a small group coaching session. It could be a one-on-one where you really care what this person thinks. If you could tell them your intentions or tell them your plan, and then you executing that plan will give you the incentive to be able to move forward. Though that's one structure you can use to begin to use the implementation. So again, the information is walking with the right people. That might be the books, podcasts, videos, or people you have friends with in person that have the success that you want to have. And then you move into creating implementation strategies and structures to help you move forward. But to be clear, most of the time when it comes to moving forward and in inserting in having more success in your world, there's something that has to change. So if you think about success as there's change and there's consistency. You need both. So there's things to start or stop, and there's things to stay doing. Those 3 S's: start, stop, and stay. So that means if people are the key to you leveling up and getting the right information around you, that means almost everyone has people right now in your circle that are holding you back. And that's a difficult thing to fully understand and grasp. So that might mean, again, depending on how much time you are with people, that in order to say yes to more of the right people, the lions that you want to learn to roar like, or the eagles you want to learn to soar like, or the wolves you want to learn to howl like, or the bears you want to learn to growl like. Once you figure out who those people are, but then you might realize there's other people. Maybe if we separated the wolves and the bears, the people you didn't want to be like. You don't want to be growling. You don't want to be howling like the wolves and the bears. But you do want to be roaring and you do want to be soaring like the eagles and the lions. Well, then it's figuring out that, you know what? If I continue to walk with the wolves and the bears, I'm going to continue to howl and to growl. Which means I need to make a purposeful, intentional conscious decision to spend less time with the wolves and bears, the howlers and the growlers, so that you can have the time and the energy to walk with the eagles and the lions, so you can learn to roar and soar. So I say all of that. When it comes to what actually holds people back, any person that I'm working with or talking to and they're trying to improve any area of their life, that's one of the first questions that I would go to is, who are you walking with? Again, that's the words you're reading about, the words you're listening to, the videos you're watching, or people you're with in person that have those qualities, that have those achievements that will help you move from where you are to where you want to go. So to wrap this all up, again, if you walk with bears, you'll learn to growl. You walk with wolves, you'll learn to howl. You walk with lions, you'll learn to roar. Walk with eagles, and you'll learn to soar.